how would you like to achieve your first million? And today we have David, which is a former tech entrepreneur, and today I have a new business, offering champagne, organic champagne here in the United States. So David, tell us, tell us what everybody want to hear. What are the 5 steps that tech entrepreneurs should be doing in order to achieve the first million? Basically, to get the product market fit.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Yeah, thank you so much, Harry. I really appreciate the time and the opportunity to address your audience. For those who are tech entrepreneurs, and for everyone else, my name is David Aferiat. I'm a tech entrepreneur that grew a company from zero, bootstrapped with just our own money, and 2 other partners, to a height of 14 million, and which lasted over 20 years and provided the means to raise a family and to create change in an industry, and really delve into the very beginnings of AI. That we are all enjoying today. So it's been an amazing ride, and it's led me to pursue other entrepreneurial ideas that I've always had about, for instance, like importing organic champagne from France into the US. But part of that journey, as you mentioned before, I appreciated you pointing out that not many companies go 20 years, let alone in the tech business. But we also made the Inc. 5000 list six times. But not just 6 times, 6
Wow.
years in a row, which is like only 1 or 2% of all the companies who've ever been on that list can also, claim. And we satisfied, tens of thousands, almost hundreds of thousands of customers. And we did it for individual subscribers as well as for customers of major online retail brokers like Scottrade, TD Ameritrade, E-Trade, even Interactive Brokers. So I can say that to your question, what are the 5 steps that will enable a tech entrepreneur to reach her first million in revenue? I can tell you that you certainly need to, and this is no surprise. The first one is getting your product market fit, right? So identifying the market opportunity that you're going after and determining that this product solves a problem. It either it either delights or it removes pain. And my tech company was a SaaS model, subscription-based model, fintech. So, and it helped people trade in the markets and make better decisions in the stock market. And so the markets are often run by fear and greed. And our product market fit was to be able to say, hey, we can put you on the same level as professional traders, making as good a decisions as they do, and help you with outcomes, both the risk side as well as the opportunity side, and guide you and make you better. They're still your decisions. You still apply your own risk profile and so forth. We're not advising, but we're presenting ideas fully informed for you to make a better decision. And that was a key product market fit that started our takeoff. The second point I'll make is you have to be able to audit, document, see from the outside all the touch points of a customer on their journey with your product. There's a mentor of mine named Joey Coleman. He's written a book called Never Lose a Customer Again. And Joey...
Great title.
Never Lose a Customer Again, Joey Coleman. And this is all about mapping your customer. Doesn't matter if you own a chiropractic, office or several of them, or you're doing fintech. You have to be able to understand, how does the customer first touch you? What do they experience in that moment? And then ongoingly, what are the opportunities that you have to communicate as the customer takes the journey with you and your product, right? Once you've mapped the customer journey and you've figured out the ways in which you're going to touch the customers and delight them in different and unusual ways, then you get to a product strategy, which is the third element, which we use to great. I hammered on this for nearly 20 years. The moment that a customer meets your product for the first time, you have to deliver the maximum value on that first impression. And I can't tell you how many times we failed at that before we learned that lesson. We used to show a lot of stick before we gave anyone a carrot. And what I mean by that is we asked you for your email, your phone number to fill out this form, and then get into the product by picking menus. What kind of trader are you? What would you like to see? It's like we were helping them, but no one wants all that help. What everyone wants is instant gratification. Show me the full value of what your product promises that I can do in a first impression. And the first time I turn on or I log in and or not even log in, as I see the product from the outside, show me the promise of what this technology can do. And if it's making a better decision in this particular stock, avoiding this loss and doing this, that is what you need to show in the first impression. Once you show me what the promised land looks like, then I'll go through the desert and I will walk however, steps you want me to take to get to how many sticks you put in my way. Show me the carrot first, and then you can hit me with the stick. Fourth item on this journey of helping entrepreneurs to their first million is having a very effective segmentation strategy. This comes from the element we just talked about. If you're going to show the maximum value on the first impression, well, that changes depending on the kind of customer who's coming to you for the first time. An equities trader would want to see perhaps one view and instantly know the value of your product, but that might be very different than what an options trader might want, or a crypto trader, a Bitcoin trader. So understanding who's coming to your product dynamically and in real time, you've got to be able to show the best view of the best impression you want to make, depending on who that person is, depending on what category or how they reach you. Maybe they reach you through a certain landing page from an email funnel, maybe from a certain, Harry's podcast kind of interview like this, they come to the site. You've got to be able to anticipate the audience and who they are, and then show the best impression of your product. So segmenting and understanding your customers is that fourth element, very key, that follows from the third, that follows from the second, that follows from the product market fit. The last thing I would say is the fifth element is then driving and the network effects of driving and understanding, finding partners for success. This is on two levels. Finding partners for success at the business level, like literally finding those who could be affiliates of your product, who are already talking to your segments. And so for our case, it was a lot of those that were teaching people about how to engage in the market and strategies, used our tool to help validate their ideas and to help customize our tool so that you can trade like them using our service. And people would be like, okay, I got the knowledge about how to trade. Now I'm going to get this technology that's going to help me spot these opportunities and help me, make these decisions. So educators were natural, market educators were natural partners of our technology. We also landed partners, larger enterprises like E-Trade and Scottrade, and they eventually became partners as well. Now that's a long road, and there's a whole different conversation about how to land those enterprise, customers, but we'll save that for another podcast. But just identify who your partners are. That's on the business level. And then as the CEO or as the business owner, you've got to make sure, and this comes from hard-earned experience where, I got my undergraduate. I went years later, then went back and got my MBA. One of my personal core values is that I'm a lifelong learner. If I stop learning, I start plateauing, and I don't like that. And after my MBA, it was like, well, what else? I'm not going to get a PhD, or what else am I going to do? And so the education after the formal education that I found was to join other entrepreneur peer groups. And there are several. The one that's in my mind the best and that I've had a long-term relationship, almost 10 years with, is called the Entrepreneurs Organization, EO. And joining a peer, and even if you're not a CEO, if you're a key executive, you can join groups that are like chief marketing officer groups, or if you're a CFO or CFO groups. But this for entrepreneurs and business owners was an excellent group for me because it surrounded me with amazing people on amazing journeys, doing amazing things. And I'm every month able to meet with a group of 7 of them and share experiences that I wouldn't otherwise be able to share with even a business partner, a spouse, certainly an employee, that need to be aired out. And this mastermind kind of accountability group helps. And that's part of a chapter, which here in it, well, I'm talking to you from Atlanta, and this EO organization is around the world with chapters around the world from Hyderabad, India, or Pakistan to San Francisco to Atlanta. There are about 150 in the chapter, and we organize learning events every month as well. So we bring in speakers, and that was my way of continuing to sharpen the saw and learn new models, not only about how to use this in business, but how to maintain the most precious machine, which is in between our ears here, and keep our mental health, clean, and keep our self-talk very clean. And that has been the journey I've been on of the last couple of years, is my own internal self-talk about how do I, maintain a healthy mental outlook so I can look at and find opportunity rather than feel beleaguered or lost or doubtful and relive past, mistakes and so forth. That's not a healthy place to be in. And yet, sometimes these thoughts come in, but now I know how to regulate them. They come in, they have their say, and then they leave, and then we keep moving. It doesn't derail me, as it might have in the past. So those are the 5. I'll repeat them just for clarity. 1, get your product market fit. 2, understand and map and audit the customer journey. That will help you. 3, deliver the maximum value on the first impression and then at later touch points. 4, to get to the maximum value on the first impression, you have to be able to segment and understand the different kinds of customers that would get the maximum value. And then 5, drive, partnerships for success. Find for your business, and then find for your own self these kinds of partners and communities that can help you, that want to help you achieve that first million and beyond.
Okay. Thank you so much, David, for sharing. And I think that the very first question that I will ask you is, because in this podcast, you're Unstoppable, 5 steps how to make your first million. Yeah, it's 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6 of the guests that come to the broadcast, they are tech entrepreneurs. So the audience might have a wrong assumption that it's really, really easy to become a multimillionaire in tech. And nobody never spoke about the 98%, the hugely high rate of failing companies on the tech space. And I'm very happy and glad to hear from you that you're launching soon a coaching business where you will help tech entrepreneurs to grow the business and to expand, because I think there's a huge need for it. And we have massive problems in the industry when it comes to tech entrepreneurs, right? So founders, some of them, they are just, if they are tech entrepreneurs, right? They very basic concepts, like an MVP, minimum viable product, right? And they go there and they create a product that is gonna change the world, that is so good. And then you ask all the money of your friends and you put all your money, you remortgage your house, and then you become a huge elephant. And then when everything is exhausted, you don't have no even energy or finance or resources to bring that product to market, and you don't even know if this is what the markets want to buy. And then I never hear any entrepreneur in this broadcast. We already interviewed with 500 millionaires, and we haven't heard anybody say, Harry, I designed this product like that, and the market bought it straight away. There is always several iterations. So what is your view on this, David? We have a huge problem. I mean, entrepreneurs, they're very, some of them, they're very product centered. I mean, this is what they have. They love about the product and everything. But this is not the dynamics how to take a tech business or any business to market work. So what advice do you have for tech entrepreneurs that they get caught in that, because it's create a lot of damage, right?
I'll answer it this way. I'm not going to giving you or your audience any more advice. I've given you 5 steps. Maybe you catch some of that, maybe you don't. But what I can share is perhaps some stories. And I think the stories really
More
go,
powerful, yeah.
they're a little bit more powerful. And I'll just tell you, like, how we got to our first million, right? So, given all these strategies and all these points I mentioned, when we first started, I didn't earn a salary for a year, right?
Wow.
And that was kind of like my contribution, into the partnership was like, okay, well, we don't have any outside money, so we've got to find our first, customers. And our first individual customers were, friends and subscribers, friends. And then we had a few subscribers paying $49 a month or something, or just, something low. And I was like, this is going to take a long time if we build this one customer at a time. Um, so I took the mantle of flying to New York and trying to land, more marquee, large, corporations to use the technology. And that also failed for several months because I was running around finding everybody that had the word capital in their company name, and also knocking on large doors like Merrill Lynch and UBS at the time. And the meetings that I could get, even if they were interested, this was at a time where there was an enormous amount of downsizing of traders on the floor who used to manage the trades. Then with a lot of things became electronic, you still had one trader maybe in charge of 50 issues, 50 stocks to look at. But then all that got reduced. So this was like people were getting let off every year. And I was coming with the kind of technology, frankly, that was going to put them out. But even if I found a Merrill Lynch, I'd only sell like maybe 10 licenses, and that just wasn't a lot. And it was a little bit of panic, like, what am I doing? And I had a wife and a home and a baby on the way, and I was like, we got it, what else can we do here? And we came across, the solution was, I'm tired of going and finding decision makers and only getting 10, customers. And this is going to take a long time if each decision maker is a subscriber. So we went to where there were communities where one person was making the technology decisions for tens of thousands. And that led us to these online retail brokerages like Scottrade. Scottrade was the first company, which was sold to TD Ameritrade. So it's TD Ameritrade to those who know. And now TD Ameritrade was sold to Schwab. So it was Charles Schwab in the iteration before TD Ameritrade and then before that Scottrade. And it was presenting them this to the one decision maker. Starting, and how did we meet that decision maker? We went to conferences where they were, and we showcased our technology where they were. We got booths next to them just to say, "Hey, neighbor, have you checked this out?" They were there to look, we were there to show, and we got into a conversation about the value of the technology, and demonstrating it started to get into more conversations even after the conference, until the point where it took about another 8 more months, 6 more months to get down to a license agreement where we were able to say, provide this to your customers. This was also at a time where commissions were paid. When you made an equity trade, you actually paid a commission $5, then it was $3, and now it's free, of course. But we grew under that market dynamic. And when those commissions went away, we still, provided value by showing that an engaged customer is someone who's still going to be with you, as opposed to leaving for another competitor or that has better technology. Plus, if you're a customer of a brokerage company, then you're also sold other products like savings and IRAs and other kind of mutual funds. So ways to build assets under management. Regardless, eventually got to the point where it was like the Scottrade was willing to take our technology and embed it into their platform. And then suddenly we had 20,000 customers. And all of them paying, with Scottrade paying a certain amount every month, and then much discounted, much like a wholesale rate, but nevertheless a fantastic number. And that got us the revenues, that got everyone getting paid, and then we started to run from there. A short time afterwards, once you get the blood in the water, and one competitor is using technology to leverage it and create an amazing experience along the customer journey, other brokers take a little notice of that. And so it was then E-Trade that fell, or that came our way a good number of months afterwards. And then we started to, build on that. And then we started to get more individual subscribers who weren't necessarily with E-Trade or Scottrade, but like, hey, I need this technology. I don't necessarily want to be a broker client of these companies. We grew from there, on and on. But that was kind of like the first journey of how we got there. And I will say that having a good
Very
conference,
impressive, David. Very impressive.
I mean, to talk about the fifth point, these aren't in order, but the fifth point about finding partners is often going to where thought leadership exists at the time then and still now. It's that individual
Relationships,
in-person relationships that
100%.
conferences are designed to do, right? Conferences
Yeah,
are designed to bring people together.
yeah.
And then we'll do another podcast, but there's a whole strategy about taking someone else's conference and making it your own and adding a bolt experiences that,
Wow, definitely we need to have that one. Definitely, David.
that's
Dave,
2.0. That's 2.0.
David, but I think that another point that you touched base, and I love it. Yeah, and a big fan of it. Yeah, I actually do this myself a lot. Yeah, and I think that been the basis of my business is this concept that never lose a customer again, again, right? Never lose a client again. And this is another big issue, David, that the the industry face, the tech entrepreneur. I invest in tech companies. I'm on the space a lot. I see a lot of tech founders. I know what they're doing. They share stories with me. I bring them sometimes in front of the venture capitalists. The VC also talk to me and tell me, Harry, they are not ready. Like sometimes, you bring a founder in front of the VC or angel investor, and the VC said, okay, come to see me in your next idea. And then the founder is looking at me and say, Harry, what this guy means, is this is my product now, what he means about the next idea. So what it's trying to tell you is like you're not an entrepreneur yet. You don't have the skills. They see you as a good product person. They see that you have potential, but they need to have an entrepreneur in front of them, and you're not that ready yet. That's why they're giving you this answer. Come to see me in your next idea. Come to see me after you fail. So you will be more now, because again, it's all about the conversation, and it's all about the mindset, and this entrepreneur. There is a path for success that you're describing right now. That unfortunately, if you miss the steps, um, then it becomes difficult in tech, in my opinion, almost impossible. And the second, and the important thing that it comes to that is about this, David, that you're talking about, which is how to deal with your first customer, or how to deal with customers in general, right? And I heard that you described that, it took a long time to learn the lesson about, about the clients and about your first clients. I see tech entrepreneurs, tech founders, you bring the first client, and they are like, well, the first client come and say, look, guys, can you do this and this and this for me? I'm ready to pay. I have the money. I don't have that much because nobody knows you, but I'm willing to pay you something for what you're doing. But by the way, you're developing this product, but I need X, Y, and Z. And then the tech founder say, well, we only do this, and just pay me for this. You have to pay now. And if you need something else, you need to find another company to do something else. So now you have the first client now looking for something, for a solution that you actually can develop and provide. But the tech founder is so in love with the pro, so close, with no flexibility and no ability to listen to the first client, which is actually the first clients are what reshaping your product, where actually is telling you what the market needs. So because sometimes you cannot listen to everybody because everybody have different things. I especially tech, which is really expensive. It goes hard. But tell us a little bit more about that, David. What's your view in this?
I'll share another story. And it was a
Great.
lesson learned not by me, but by my two other partners and their previous venture that call it failed, but lessons, there's no failure if you learn
Absolutely.
mistakes, okay? But from previous mistakes.
Lennis.
And the story is about a product team that became so enamored with getting it right the first time that they let good be the enemy of perfect, right? And it was always, let's add one more thing. Let's add one more thing. Let's add one more. We can't release yet. We can't release yet. We can't release that. So you've already talked about minimum viable product, and that is an important, that is important. So with whatever customer you're talking about or talking to, I would say you get certain bits of feedback, but get the product out. Be embarrassed. If you're not embarrassed about it, I mean, I think the CEO of LinkedIn, Rob, talks about this all the time, is that you should be able to look back on your first version and just be like cringe embarrassed about it. But that's because you got it out. You quickly started,
That's what
iterating
is
on
an
it.
MVP. The
That's why
M
it's
is
an
for
MVP.
minimum. Yeah, everybody skip that M. It's
But
minimum viable products, right?
here the balance then is, and I think we did a good job of doing this in that I'm always someone having, taking the lessons I got from that story, from those, mistakes, was also that you cannot listen to customers too much, because they only know so much and they can only see, like the tail of the horse, and you're actually trying to design a car, right? And they're trying to optimize on how can the horse get faster and so forth. There's that concept of it. You need to be so far ahead that I can get feedback from you, but what I'm building is such a large step improvement. You're in a good space when you're making those large step improvements. I'd simply say that Apple did an amazing job of this, and Steve Jobs, about designing the MacBook Air at a time where Dell was also at their heels. And so Dell had a reputation of, we'll fit everything in here. The computer's a Swiss Army knife. You want an external hard drive? You got it. You want 3 more ports for USB devices? You got it. You want something that's going to read DVDs at the time? You got it. Whereas Steve Jobs said, look, we want the Mac Air to weigh next to nothing. And what that means is it's not going to have all this other junk. And the way he framed it was, we have to be able to say no in the service of yes. No to these extras, no to this capability, no to these like what if scenarios. In the service of yes, it's going to be light, it's going to be a breeze to use, and it'll be connected to something that, will give it everything that it needs. And he was, eventually being right with that decision, instead of like all this extra hardware. If we wanted to be everything to everybody, we'd be like Dell, and we can be competing on, in that frame. We're competing in
And
a different.
almost impossible, because if different clients are giving you different feedback, it will drive you crazy because you don't know what to do. However,
Because your product looks like a horse, and
yeah,
you're eventually
you don't
building
know
a.
who to serve. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
However, saying that, David, at least there are some reasons. Let's talk about the first clients, right? In your own experience, there is there is. I mean, when you identify, that these first clients are actually passionate about the product and the vision that you produce, right? Um, how important do you think that is, not to get obsessed, but about to hear, why, what contribution they can bring to the product, because in the end of the day, they're using it, right? That will help you to speed the process to unlock what really the markets want out of you, because sometimes developing a product, we don't know, especially if we are embarrassed by it, it's just an starting form. How do you think that, obviously it had to be like you said, the first clients that have that actually are following your vision. I understood the benefit that you bring into the marketplace. Yeah. um Again, what is you talk about relationships, yeah? How we should be these relationships, especially with the first one, that in my opinion are a big help, right?
Okay, so another story. In growing trade ideas, again, this was for 20 years. I've seen a lot. Back around 2007, there was this thing called Twitter that was around. And I was one of the first to realize, like, this is an external community that we can tap into, as opposed to trying to create our own, like AOL, or I'm really using some terms here, like your own walled garden of communities, which were generally run by other companies using, forum And we had our own forum, like where you could off the website, visit our forum, log in and understand and get information that we were providing and we were talking and providing information. And there'd be some product questions that would be asked. And we started to see some, we would answer those questions. And we eventually made a move to Twitter and exposed our technology and got more, questions by going to Twitter. But we would still answer in our forum and we would point back to our forum. Using Twitter and our forum led to a lot of engagement and talk. Eventually, it started, there were too many questions for us to answer quickly. And we started to notice another person, unbeknownst, not working for the company, taking ownership and answering questions for us and doing so accurately and with speed and with, most importantly, the empathy that we appreciated that was consummate to the kind of culture that we were creating in our company. So this wasn't a snarky, a cynical, pejorative kind of person, acting acting too big for their britches, so to speak, or in a but very, very comforting way, very educational tone. And so we eventually identified who this person was and said, look, you're doing a great job. You're answering questions even better and more thoroughly than we would take the time to answer in a fantastic way. Why don't we make you an affiliate and pay you for all of the resulting business that comes from you explaining the technology in these questions from early people who haven't decided to subscribe yet. And so by making, deputizing this person and saying, you're in charge, this person eventually became an employee, but for the longest time, they were an affiliate, one of our best affiliates who just was motivated to explain in a way that eventually got people in a low pressure, low key way, becoming subscribers and then benefiting from that, to the tune of a healthy commission on what was now like a $100 a month subscription and so forth. And that was aligning incentives and, a great way of figuring out that from your community, you can tap not only customer service, but you can also tap even future developers that will, that come to you because of because of the value you're creating in a open community from Twitter, which was a great accelerant.
Yeah. And then David, because you at the end of the day, let's talk about your new business, importing champagne from France to United States. Because at the end of the day, this it's great to have you as a distributor because you're actually a tech person, right? So you can literally turn this easy in the tech champagne distribution very quickly if you want to, because you do have the skills. And
Listen,
I will be fantastic, to see like again subscription models and different tastes of champagne and online and building again the community and because at the end of the day, this is something that David this is how the world we are in the technology era, still we are, and the best, one of the greatest hotel companies in the world is Airbnb, which is tech accommodation. The other one's taxi driver is Uber, which is tech cab driving. And if you keep looking and so on, we have seen that those companies that are able to embrace a physical product like a champagne and add the tech element to it, they are having a massive competitive advantage against the competitor. Look at Tesla; it's a car tech company. Right? Toyota produce car, but Tesla is a car tech, right? So, any
Harry, I
ideas for
think
a champagne tech?
I like the way you're thinking, and I appreciate I appreciate the segue into this. Yes, this is organic champagne, and you can find it at avidvines.com. Napoleon used to always say, "Look, I'm drinking champagne. If I win the battle, I'm drinking it for victory, and if I lose the battle, I'm licking my wounds, but I'm soothing myself with champagne. Either way, I'm drinking champagne." And so that's a great attitude to have.
Absolutely.
Learn from mistakes too. But yeah, as I mentioned, the champagne, that's easy. You've got to be able to celebrate wins along the journey, along the journey where, if you're the hero of your own story, building, frankly, you can do this many ways. You're the hero of your own story, building this organization, collecting investors and getting guides along the way. And we all know that things are marketed to us by not, by making the customer the hero and then holding the position of guide and saying, look, I'm guiding the customer to their journey of what their needs are. At Trade Ideas, all about making better decisions was really all about, my tech firm was all about how do we help people do the things in their lives that they want to get done and achieve. For some, that might be starting a soccer academy for for underserved youth. It might be a photographer helping to, keep incomes during off-season periods where there aren't weddings and so forth to be photographing. These were things that we were allowing people to do because of their engagement in the market. And once you make it personal to that, you start to have people buying in within your own company into the mission to serve something greater than themselves and their salary. And there's a whole book about that called The Outward Mindset that I'd recommend. It's all about not thinking in your functional silo of customer service but bringing, or marketing or finance, but bringing all these teams together. And the customer journey is a great way to do that, and auditing it to say, how can we bring a customer service interaction into this first, touch point? Or how can we bring a sales aspect into later on in the journey, or a marketing one, or all these things? I say all that because the other endeavor that I'm starting is this consulting and coaching business. But I will say, like we talked about before, it is actually not for startups, unless you've got at least a team, and I mean like an executive team that's got individuals underneath it. And that can happen in a startup if you're well capitalized, and if you're actually under that pressure of being capitalized for venture capital and so forth, then we'll work with you. But it is best for startups to join accelerators and join other communities and learn from others on those first steps. And once you achieve that, the game starts anew all over again as you scale and start to reach the 2 million, the 5 million, the $10 million mark. And so the coaching that we do is for those companies that have had their first snub or their first problems with adapting to a sudden change, and how we help them pivot to growth is all about
100%.
how you quickly identify the gap from that the change is created, and how do you fill it in? How do you gain? How do you step
Yeah,
into the game, not into the
yeah,
gap?
100%. And then
And by the way,
David,
that just real quick. So Avid Vines for the champagne, the service I'm starting, I invite everyone listening to join and find me on LinkedIn. That is the perfect way to start our relationship, where we will start communicating all of those coaching and consulting businesses through my LinkedIn profile.
very good, David. So how people can find you, how the process works, they can find you in LinkedIn. And yeah, okay, so so they will type your name and they can message in LinkedIn, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. So, okay, David, this has been amazing. I think I do love your champagne product, especially because what it represents, right? We are in a I mean, we should move forward where companies, they are more and more engaged with social responsibility, right? Because we don't want to have a product that we are celebrating and it's poisoning the landfill and probably damage to the health of the people. You want to be celebrated if you're a big corporation with something organic that that do good for the planet, do good for you're celebrating, but you are being socially responsible at the same time. And this it says a lot about the brand or the wedding or whoever is celebrating the victories in that way, sending a secondary message. And I think that this is something, my girlfriend has a movement with Marie Diamond from the movie The Secret. We call Global Conscious Entrepreneurs. And I think social responsibility more and more needs to be done and take place, especially here in United States. Yeah, especially in
Yeah.
United States, a lot of work needs to be done on that sense. Europe is moving a little bit more, in my opinion, I'm based in United Kingdom, in London, so I see a lot of more how you call it, development in these areas in different ways. A lot of supermarkets having more plant-based food and some rules and regulation, again, carbon footprint, and more, the organic, products that especially, when it comes to champagne, when it comes to that, price is not relevant because when you buy a bottle of champagne, there is the victory is all about the victory. It's all about how you want to represent the victory and the message you want to send. So I do love the product. I I wish you well. I know you're gonna do well. So because you train for it. You do know what you're talking about. So David, and so what's your last message? Last message for entrepreneurs out there, especially, before the broadcast, you were telling me, when building a tech company, you had to pivot and pivot again, and now you are 1 year with no salary, and still you're trying out. And after you come back with New York, you even have less money, and you're thinking how to make this work and become exhausted, and then you don't have no money. You're thinking to give up, and the entrepreneurs out there, they are nowhere. I think that this is just starting, that this is not 100 meters. This is going to be a marathon. What message do you have for the tech entrepreneurs out there?
Well, it's good to size up your competition. It's good to understand what they're doing so that you can do something better. But you skirt against the concept as it relates outside of business, but to your own mental health. And that is letting comparison be the thief of joy, right? We talked about this before. The most important machine going on in activity is the stuff in between your two ears. So I encourage everyone to have very curated and well-maintained self-care and wellness routines. And these routines should be designed in a way that keep you healthy and well in a way that's almost automatic. That's what a routine is, right? A routine that services you well is one that you've put into the form of habit, like James Clear talks about it in Atomic Habits, a great book. And making these routines really your identity. We're only as good as what we do on a repeated basis. And if you are eating well, and if you are exercising well, sleeping well, maintaining a level of flexibility for the future version of yourself, which you want to be better than your current version, then you have to have a daily routine that you're investing in to get to that future self. And that involves, as I said, eating well, sleeping well, a wellness routine that includes everything from exercise to like a nice massage, but also loving relationships, no matter wherever you can find them. They could be your spouse, they could be friends, they could be your parents, and surrounding yourself with those who, with whom you feel connected to and you feel loved. I've been privileged, and I'm super humbled by these routines and the people that surround me who love me and support me. And it makes any kind of challenge like this, it puts it certainly into perspective. There are people dealing with enormous problems of health, enormous problems of physical and mental health that, it's to me too high a price to pay. So it puts everything in perspective. Like, we're doing this, but if it comes at some price to our health and wellness, we're stopping, reassessing, we're figuring it out, because there's just nothing more important than that. And I would encourage everyone to make sure that asking yourself, what is the future version that I'm shooting for? What condition is that gonna look like? And if I don't like it, then I start today with a new routine, with the foundation of what may become a routine.
Thank you so much, David. And with that note, that was been fantastic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that you spend this time with our audience. And you see, a lot of stories, right? It's sometimes more powerful than than the advice, because it's illustrate what actually happened in reality, and also illustrate um, how how you, David, had gone through the process, which is I found
I
it really, really powerful.
Thank you, Harry. I really appreciate this time. I will say this too. Again, in admiration of both your story. You're an immigrant to this country. I'm the son of
Yeah.
an immigrant. And to
Wow.
everyone out there who's listening who is either an immigrant to the country or the son or daughter of an immigrant, I say you've got a special advantage in both a work ethic and a drive and a determination, a vision of what you want. And that is your advantage. Dig into that. It's helped me connect to not just my father as the immigrant, but even my grandfather, who made the decision to come here in the first place. Connect to that. You have all the drive and you have all my admiration for your journey, and connect with me, and in particular, if you fit that, if you're part of that story as well, because it's a powerful one and you can draw a lot from it.
Great, David. Thank you so much. And for all of you listening, the broadcast Unstoppable, 5 Steps How to Make Your First Million, or follow us in our social media. See you in our next episode of Unstoppable, how brave entrepreneurs like David break that wall and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Follow us for more interviews with the world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.